Today's topic is crucial for anyone using AI tools in their business. We will be exploring the ethical considerations of AI, ensuring you leverage its power responsibly and fairly. By the end of this video, you will understand how to identify potential ethical pitfalls, promote transparency in AI decision making, and utilize data responsibly. Today, we're going to be looking at the ethical considerations that you need to factor in as part of your AI transactions. The objectives for today are that you'd want to identify the potential ethical pitfalls in your workflow and in your business. You want to implement strategies to mitigate the bias and promote fairness in all of your transactions. Understand the importance of transparency in AI and the techniques to achieve transparency. And finally, want to show you how to apply the data best practices when utilizing AI tools in your business. So AI has revolutionized real estate. We all agree on that. But what are the key areas that we need to make sure that when we apply AI, it is not biased or unfair to some of the clients that we deal with? So firstly, you want to understand how AI streamlines property searches and creates its recommendations. The automation of property valuations, even though there is greater accuracy, all of that automation is based on data that AI has been trained on. The third thing is, if you're offering virtual tours and property staging, make sure that those functionalities apply to multiple groups and multiple demographics within your client base. Make sure it's inclusive. The final thing is the predictive analytics that we rely on and we've talked about in previous sessions. How does it inform your investment decisions, and is it based on transparent, fair information? Now, there are key ways of building that trust through, and one of the key things is to be ethical with the way you are providing that information or making those decisions. The key thing is for you to say or claim that your system is ethical, it needs to be fair, it needs to be transparent, and you need to demonstrate that you are responsible with the data that you are collecting. There are key ways at a high level that you can mitigate biases. One of them is with algorithmic biases. This is where the AI system is trained on data, and that historical data contains biased data sets. And because the AI is trained on data sets that is biased, the results that it will produce would also be biased, because it's not making all of the decisions just by itself. It's based on the history that it knows of. So examples would be things like biased valuations based on demographics. So a clear example was a California study that, or was it Boston, either California or Boston study that was based on the demographics of the area and the desirability of certain areas based on the people who lived in that specific area. So if that information is used to train AI, then the results would amplify that. So, for instance, AI might recommend that a certain class of people does not live in a specific area because the people in that area do not match the same demographics or some of the prejudices that are inherent in the data that is generated. And the final one is discriminatory recommendations. And that's what I'm talking about, the exclusion of certain neighborhoods because of perhaps the demographics or other data that AI would have been trained on. Now, you might say, well, if the data says that an area is more dangerous or more risky for a certain group of people, then AI should highlight that. So what happens when that area does change or become a more desirable area or goes through gentrification? How do you factor that in? And then it's also illegal to discriminate based on race, color, religion, and the usual demographic features or categories. Now, what are strategies you can adopt for mitigating bias? One is ensuring that your training data set is diversified. You want to include a wider range of data points, and you want to represent as many members of the demographic categories as possible. Ensure that the testing is fair, so you regularly evaluate the AI models for bias and correct any inconsistencies that you discover. Then the final one is human oversight. You need to make sure that the humans involved in the decision process. Now, one of the things that is quite common with AI is that it's considered a black box. So a black box in the sense that a question is pushed into the AI system and then out comes an answer. Nobody knows what's happening within the AI understanding or the AI processing. So it makes the whole thing opaque, and it's difficult to understand how the decisions are made or any conclusions are reached. Fortunately, there's a concept called explainable AI, and with explainable AI, the techniques that are adopted would shed light on how the decision-making process goes. It's not 100% foolproof, but it does provide a guide as to how the AI decisions should be reached. So here are some examples of how the explainable AI is implemented. Firstly is creating a decision tree. So with decision trees, you're visualizing the logic behind the AI decisions. It's almost like a flow chart. You also have the option of rule-based models. So with rule-based models, everything is defined and it's clearly set for AI how it should make its decisions and how it should interpret certain conditions that it comes across. Then the final one is clear communication with your clients. You explain to the clients how AI is used within the transaction process and the factors that were considered during the decision-making process. And then the next ethical area that we want to touch on is the client privacy and data security. Clearly, for the last few years, there's been GDPR in Europe. This is all about the privacy rights of your clients. And then in California, in America, there's a California Consumer Privacy Act, which grants Californian residents control over their personal information. An important thing is to recognize that your client data is a valuable asset, and how you use it and store it is very important and can lead to severe consequences if not dealt with correctly. So here are some best practices for handling your client's data in a responsible manner. Firstly, you need to make sure you get consent, and it needs to be explicit consent. You can't take information from your client for one purpose and then apply it to another. It has to be clear that you are taking that information and you need to specify exactly what you'd be doing with that information. The second thing is you want to anonymize the data as best as possible. Essentially, you don't really need, for instance, you don't really need date of birth, for instance, but you might be okay with the age rather than the explicit date of birth of a client. You may not need to know the color of your client. All you need to know is that they're a male or female. So you take the information you need and then use that to train your AI and use that in your decision-making process. Then the final thing is when you store this information, it has to be secure and encrypted. So you make sure you implement robust security measures just to safeguard the client data from unauthorized access and ensure that you don't have any breaches. So AutoRead.ai can help you with these solutions. We can help in developing and implementing something as ethical within your business. We have AI experts in-house that can help with this decision-making process, and we'll ensure that your tools are fair, they're transparent, and they're compliant. So you can partner with us. We specialize in automation. We automate business processes, automate your daily workflows, and reach out to us. You can go to our website, autoread.ai, or send us an email. to auto.re.ai. We're also available on all of the social channels, and be sure to leave a comment on this video. Would like to understand how you're applying different AI tools within your business and what things you have in place to ensure that you are compliant, both ethically and compliant with the policies of the government where you operate. So thank you so much for your time today. We've just covered the key aspects of ethical use of AI within your transactions. Until next time, keep winning.